Joining us now to weigh in on these current cases and the rhetoric against Trump, attorney and senior counsel over at the Article 3 Project, Will Chamberlain, back on the program. Will, nice to see you again. Where should we begin? I guess we'll begin with the most current one, and that is Judge, is it Merchan or Merchan? You would know better than I. Don't know? Yeah, I don't care. He's a corrupt-ass judge. So, and his whole family are a bunch of lefties who hate on Trump and Trump supporters on social media almost daily, if not weekly. And so I think that Trump should be able to say what the hell he wants and should be exposed, that he can't get a fair trial, especially in New York. I mean, we just saw it with his business trial, where the judge already found him guilty before they even started, and all that the jury was there was for what? To say how much cash that they're supposed to award, and then they try to say, look, you better pay all $455 million or we're going to start taking your towers. I mean, if people can't see that these judges are so damn corrupt, it's got to be their Donald J. Trump syndrome that prevents them from seeing the truth.
Well, I think people are seeing that. I think, there maybe a year ago you looked at the polling and it looked like whether or not Trump would face a conviction would have a real impact on the outcome of the race. And if you look at that specific question, the polling's changed on that entirely because the American public has realized that these cases aren't serious, that they aren't the product of an unbiased and objective justice system. And so, you look at this case in New York. Ultimately, what is Donald Trump being prosecuted for? He's being prosecuted for being the victim of blackmail by Michael Avenatti. That's the thesis of all these cases. Right. Stormy Daniels blackmailed him with Michael Avenatti's help. So that's what's really going on here.
Yeah, that case is so disturbing to me because you have the letter from Stormy that says nothing ever happened, that she signed of her own fruition and free will. Nobody held a gun to her head that I know of and said nothing happened. But then Michael steps in and, there's something happening, and I had to pay her money, and Trump knew it, and yeah, he did have sex with her, and he's trying to hide it. So who are we supposed to believe? The corrupt, dirty attorney who's in jail, or the porn star who signed a letter and said it didn't happen, or the media who says it did, and the judge who's probably going to find him guilty? I mean...
Yeah, in jail for, let's not forget, for blackmail, right? For attempting to blackmail Nike, right? That's why he is currently sitting in federal prison.
Thank you. Thank you.
And we're supposed to take this case seriously as though it's really indicative of something wrong with the way President Trump has behaved. No. And that's one distinct problem with it. It's also should be time barred because this is about conduct from 2017, and it should have been understood as, even if all the facts were true, as a misdemeanor, which it has a 3-year statute of limitations. They've manufactured it as a felony, but it doesn't make sense because then it would have to be in service of a different felony crime. But they've never said what the other crime that this falsification of business records was in service of.
Oh yeah, that's right. They had to make up the records thing to actually get this as a felony because on its face, like you just said, you all heard that, right, folks? This is a misdemeanor charge of which the statute of limitations is run out on, so they had to trump up, pardon the pun, they had to trump this up to a felony and add some BS that business files were altered to hide the money to get him on a felony to still charge him with this. Such BS. It's kind of like the second case, which I got to ask you about, the one that's on appeal right now that he just posted the $175 million bond for, because in that case, it was Trump overvalued his property and defrauded his lenders. Yet the lenders testified there was no fraud. He paid back with interest. There's no victim. And yet you got Letitia over there going, we're going to take Trump Towers and put a big padlock on it if he don't pay $455 million right now. That one's headed to appeals. What do you know about the judges? If it's, again, I think it's the federal district level appeals. Is that where it's going to go? So it's going to be a panel of judges, or where does it go next? Who's going to review that one?
That's another New York State
case,
so it's not going to be in federal court. That's going to be in the State Court of Appeals in New York.
Okay, how's that one looking?
You're right. What's up?
How's that one looking?
Again, what should happen is that case should be tossed.
Yes.
Another case where, if you actually kind of reducing to the down, what is the thesis of the case is that, Donald Trump deceived the poor, downtrodden real estate valuation departments at Deutsche Bank and Goldman Sachs, and who have no idea how to properly value real estate, and deceived them, and said that Mar-a-Lago, the biggest property in all of Palm Beach, the most expensive real estate market in the country, that he managed to deceive them by overvaluing that property, and defrauded them, even though, of course, they all got paid back and everybody made all their money. And then the end result of that is Donald Trump owes $500 million to the state of New York somehow, for some reason.
Right? I know. But we're not trying to bankrupt the man to force him out of a political election. This has nothing to do with the election. This has to do with Donald Trump, the criminal. He's a criminal.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah. I know. They're very serious about the rule of law in New York. Yeah, that's why they let carjackings and violent crime go run rampant in Manhattan. Right. It's a very consistent approach to law and order and justice.
Have you noticed that, and I forget who posted about this the other day, but the mantra from the mainstream media and from Democrats and the lefties, or the messaging, the narrative, right, the agenda. Last year and for several years, it's always been Trump is a racist. Mm-hmm. And now because that didn't hold, because he's going up in the polls with Hispanics and black folks, guess what? Now it's Trump's a criminal. So everything's about his criminality. And what I find interesting is they keep pushing that rhetoric of he's a threat to democracy, right? They pull back the January 6th stuff. They talk about these criminal cases. 91 counts. 91 counts? I mean, he's a criminal. He's a threat to democracy. I wanted to play a quick soundbite because I want the viewers to see it, and I wanted to get your take on the backside. This is third-party independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on CNN with Aaron Burnett, who, of course, Aaron is pushing the whole Trump's a threat, Trump's a threat. And she asks him, who's the bigger threat to democracy, right? It's got to be Donald Trump, not Joe Biden. Watch the answer.
The greatest threat to democracy is not somebody who questions election returns, but a president of the United States who used the power of his office to force the social media companies, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, to open a portal and give access to that portal to the FBI, to the CIA, to the IRS, to CISA, to NIH, to censor his political critics. President Biden, for the first president in history, to use his power over the Secret Service to deny Secret Service protection to one of his political opponents.
Look, I like Bobby. We have mutual friends. I like that he stands up against the vaccines, but that's about as far as I go with him because there's too many other things with gun rights, abortion, and what that we do not align on. But on this one, I agree with him 110%. I mean, how can anybody look at what the DOJ and all these agencies he just mentioned are doing? They're being weaponized against not just Trump, regular American citizens, and think that Trump's the threat to our republic, by the way, and Biden is not. Your thoughts?
Whenever you hear Democrats talk about threats to quote unquote our democracy, you just need to replace that phrase and realize it's our oligarchy, right? That they see it as a threat to their power and their right to rule. And once you actually make that replacement in any of these senses, somehow everything becomes very, very clear. You know, well, why is it okay to prosecute the guy? Well, he's a threat to our oligarchy. If you're the Democrats, because if it were about democracy, obviously trying to prevent people from voting for the candidate of their choice, as Democrats spent months doing, and as top Democrat legal minds assured us was totally legitimate and valid. But that's completely anti-democracy. It's the most anti-democratic thing you could imagine, stopping people from voting for their preferred candidate for president.
Yeah, we should have that choice, right? And we should be able to voice our concerns about the candidates, about the election process, but according to one of those big Democrat voices, we should just shut up, get over it. It's Trump versus Biden, and the only person we should vote for is Joe because Trump is horrific. You probably know who I'm going to show this next clip from. This is good old Hillary Clinton on one of those late night shows with one of those left-wing activist hosts. Watch.
What do you say to voters who are upset that those are the two choices?
Get over yourself. Those are the two choices.
Yeah, I love that.
Right? And
good.
You know, it's kind of like one is old and effective and compassionate, has a heart, and really cares about people, and one is old and has been charged with 91 felonies.
Yeah, okay.
I mean...
Okay, interesting.
I don't understand why this is even a hard choice, really. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
But we have to go through the election, and hopefully people will realize what's at stake because it's an existential question. What kind of country we're going to have, what kind of democracy we're going to have. And people who blow that off are not paying attention because it's not like Trump, his enablers, his empowerers, his allies are not telling us what they want to do. I mean, they're pretty clear about what kind of country they want.
Yeah, we are clear, Hillary. We want a capitalist, open, free society where everyone is created equal in the eyes of God and under our law. And that's it. We want to put America first. We want a sealed up border. We want good schools for our kids. We want safe communities to raise our families in. We want a strong military. We want to keep our country number one. What's wrong with that? Final word to you on the left's attempt to demonize Donald Trump as the racist, criminal, insurrectionist. They only got 7.5 months to go, right? So they're stepping it up.
Well, that clip is remarkable because it's a presidential candidate who mishandled classified information, defending a president who mishandled classified information as a senator and a vice president. And they're bragging, or like their comparison, their reason that that president is better is because the other president has been indicted wrongfully for mishandling classified information when that was the only guy who was actually doing it when he had actual classification authority. So it's just yet another indication of the dynamic here. I mean, you could, they were like, oh, one president's been indicted with 96 counts. You could reframe that just as easily. One president has indicted their primary political opponent in the run-up to an election, and who's the threat to our democracy?
Yeah. And it almost sounded like she slipped too when she tried to lay it out, right? Like one is old, blah, 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 blah. One is old and blah, blah, blah. I thought she said one is old and ineffective. It sounded like when she said Joe, I get she was trying to say effective and cares and da-da-da. But it almost sounds like she said one is old and ineffective or defective. Yeah, we know. We see Joe every day. He's definitely got some defects.
Well, one is senile and one is not, right? Like that's a really straightforward part of this comparison.
One has
right?
dementia, one doesn't. I've interviewed the other man. I've talked to him on the phone. I know the man now personally for 3 years. That guy can run circles around 10 Joe Bidens. And then Joe Biden's on display for the world to see every day, tripping, falling, stuttering. And no, I don't mean his stutter. The brain is gone. That's why he chokes his words so much. It's not that stutter that he overcame decades ago. We've all seen speeches that he gave in the 90s and 2000s where his speech was clear and fine. So I don't want to hear this crap that this stuff today is because of the stutter he had as a boy. That's gone. This is a man with either Alzheimer's or advanced dementia, and they're trying to cover it up, so we'll vote for him so they can keep their radical agenda continuing to push forward in this nation that is anti-American. Check them out over at the Article 3 Project. Will Chamberlain, our friend Mike Davis is usually on. Love you guys. Keep up the fight over there. Take care.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yep.